Democrat, Abigail Spanberger, who's just getting walloped every which way but loose by the Republican Lieutenant Governor. Winsome Earl Sears is her name, specifically because Spanberger won't denounce the Attorney General candidate, Jay Jones, who said that the Republican Speaker of the House of Virginia should be killed along with his 2 kids. And when you see Obama supporting Spanberger, just like you see Obama going in to California and saying, you know what, we should redistrict, the translation only comes out to, my God, they really are feeling some desperation here. Ed Morrissey, talk to me about what's going on in this Virginia race and Obama's entrance.
Well, I mean, you've covered it pretty well here, Tony. This is not the first time that Obama's done this. People may forget this, but he had to do this 4 years ago to try to save Terry McAuliffe's campaign in the gubernatorial election in which Glenn Youngkin won a surprise victory. And this is, Terry McAuliffe, his big problem was that he equated parents showing up to school board meetings to domestic terrorism. Now, this is right after January 6th, and Democrats thought that the January 6th narrative was a winner for elections, and Terry McAuliffe went all in on that and ended up getting spanked in the general election, surprisingly so, by Glenn Youngkin. They're doing the same thing here, and it's really mystifying to me what the calculation is here, because Jay Jones may or may not have won the Attorney General race without these texts coming out. I think he was slightly ahead against the incumbent Jason Miyares. But an AG race is not as important as a gubernatorial race. And the rule in politics is usually very practical. If somebody becomes a liability, you cut them off, right? You dump them, you denounce them, and save your own skin. Democrats have not done that with Jay Jones, even though Jay Jones was stupid enough to put this in a reproducible media, texting, right? This idea that, I forget the name of the speaker, but Todd, I can't recall his last name.
Todd Gilbert.
And his children.
It's Todd
Gilbert. Thank you very much. Todd Gilbert and his children should be murdered so that Republicans vote better on policy issues, which was then followed up by claims that he had also said that law enforcement officers should be killed in order to reduce police shootings. That's the type of thing that is far worse than anything McAuliffe ever did or said. And Spanberger just has decided to stick with him. And so has Tim Kaine, so has Mark Warner, so has the entire Democrat establishment, now including Barack Obama. He's going there to rescue Spanberger because Spanberger won't denounce Jones. And so basically this is the upshot of this is the Jones scandal is going to infect Democrats nationally because they're nationalizing this election by bringing in Obama, rather than just say, Jones is a moron and you shouldn't vote for him. I mean, it's pretty, or at least we're not going to endorse him. Make up your own mind on Jones, but we're no longer endorsing him after seeing those messages. So it's very simple, and it would have been very understandable to cut him loose. Instead, they're doubling down on stupid, and they're bringing in Obama to try to score the double down.
Talking to Ed Morrissey of hotair.com, there are a lot of names, so let's break it down to a basic component understanding of what it is that we're seeing here. What we're seeing here is that when a bunch of morons on the political right are involved in group text, talking joyfully about Hitler, mocking Jews, mocking black people, using the N-word, all these things, it's the end of civilization as we know it. And you'll see people on the political right say, yeah, that's dumb. Sorry, you're going to lose your job. No, you can't be connected to Elise Stefanik. You can't be connected to this one, that one, the other one. You got to go. You're out of a job. Maybe you'll learn. Maybe you'll get better and smarter. You can come back in 10 years. But the political left doesn't look at their own house and say this is unacceptable. So people don't want to get on the case of these people on the political right because the left doesn't get on the case of the political left. I argue that what we're seeing on the political left, it should be called out on every level, this call for violence, this willingness for violence, the obscenity. But when you see it in your own side, you got to say that that's wrong. That's the play that actually moves people. Am I wrong about that?
No, I think you're right, and not just because it's strategic or tactical. It's just because it's the right thing to do. You should tell people. You should tell people who are saying "Yay Hitler" to go pound sand. However, there is a difference between a group of what we could probably sarcastically refer to as NPCs, non-player characters, having a group chat someplace, and having somebody who's actually running for office talking about cheering on the murder of his opponent's children. That's a whole different thing. This is an actual candidate for office who's saying this, right? And he was in office at the time he was saying it. He was a state legislator at the time that he was texting this argument. And so it's a completely different issue. I mean, yeah, you can go troll Discord and find idiots across the spectrum saying idiotic things. This is a guy who's actually running for statewide office in Virginia on the Democrat ticket. And he's said these things. He's said a number of things that are very radical and just morally repugnant. And Democrats are refusing to police their own situation. It's amazing to me. I think we could talk a little bit more about the era of shamelessness in politics. That's been ever since Bill Clinton waggled a finger at a podium and said, "I did not have sexual relations with that woman."
What kind of impression is that? That's your impression?
That's as good as it gets on a Thursday morning. Come on, man.
Oh. Okay. By the way, speaking of people who wag their fingers at others, can you do the impression of Nancy Pelosi yelling at a reporter, "Shut up, don't talk to me about January 6th. You don't understand what I understand. It's all Trump's fault. That's all it is." Like, that's not bad. That's not bad, Nancy Pelosi, in my view. What about you? Got one?
It would be Nancy Pelosi, if Nancy Pelosi was on the Upper West Side. I think that's
right.
That's Nancy Pelosi as though she was from the Upper West Side. But still, yeah, neither one of us should go into the impersonation industry. I think we should both keep our day jobs.
Well, that says you, talking to Ed Morrissey of hotair.com. Impersonations is my day job. But you want to talk about wagging the finger. You want to talk about coming in and saying, "I'm above it all and you should listen to me." That's this Barack Obama story. Going into Virginia thinking he could save it for her. He's now in favor of redistricting and talking about this in California. Barack Obama today is not the Barack Obama of 10 years ago. He doesn't have the juice that he used to have. That's not me being engaging in hyperbole or just, because he's a Democrat. This is the data. He doesn't have this play. Look what he was doing about black men in the Kamala Harris election and how much that backfired. Barack Obama's going to make the difference for Democrats?
No, I don't think so. He didn't make the difference for Democrats 4 years ago, and he had more juice back then, right? He was more relevant 4 years ago. Especially, in the aftermath of January 6th and before all this stuff started coming out about how they basically cooked up the Russia collusion allegations against Donald Trump. He's got much less juice these days, and he's barely showed up. He's too busy making movies, I guess, at Netflix or building that really interesting-looking presidential library in Chicago. Looks like a disaster unfolding in slow motion there. He's just not. He's not part of the conversation anymore. And I will say this: the failure of the expert class that Obama curated in the pandemic and then in the Middle East, I think, makes his position makes him even less relevant than he was, say, 2 months ago, 3 months ago. I think Barack Obama taking out Iran's nuclear facilities and putting an end to that threat once and for all made Barack Obama. It really exposed Barack Obama as a dilettante thinker on the world stage, and made Obamaism completely irrelevant. And he's going to go in there. He's going to fire up the federal workers in Northern Virginia, maybe, who weren't going to vote for Winsome Earl Sears in the first place. But I think that there's a potential here for backfire by sticking Obama in front of the entirety of Virginia and thinking that it might not result in a higher turnout among people who just don't like Obama in the rest of Virginia. I think that they're doubling down on stupid in Virginia.
Talking to Ed Morrissey of hotair.com. let's go back now to something we were discussing with John Fetterman, who does this town hall on News Nation there at the Kennedy Center. Just because you disagree with me doesn't make you a fascist. Republicans are not fascists. Trump supporters are not fascists. We have to stop this. And then being very honest about what this shutdown is.
Then party, and it's the wrong thing for the country in a period of chaos. I refuse to vote to shut our government down. I absolutely would love to have... I would love to have a conversation about extending the tax credits for health care. Absolutely. But I would remind everybody, too, this was designed by the Democratic Party to expire at the end of the year. This is not something taken by the Republicans.
Ed Morrissey, for the honesty and, of course, clearly for the support of Israel's existence and calling Hamas the terrorists that they are. The Democrats have the long knives out.